Welcome back to 12 Days of Music Stories. Today is day 9, and day 9 is Grizzly 2. So it's August of 1983, and the Scottish hard rock band Nazareth, who had had big hits in the 1970s with songs like Love Hurts, they're headlining a music festival in Budapest, Hungary. It's called the Beast Festival, and when they get there, there's 50,000 people in attendance. It's one of the biggest concerts ever held in Eastern Europe. But what Nazareth didn't know at the time is that the whole thing was being set up so that they could shoot it for a movie. A movie that Nazareth wouldn't even be in, and a movie that wouldn't be released for almost 40 years. Years before that, in 1976, when Nazareth was riding high off the success of their album Hair of the Dog, a movie called Grizzly came out that was kind of a low-budget Jaws ripoff featuring people being terrorized by a grizzly bear, and it was an unexpected hit. A big enough hit that years later this producer named Joseph Ford Proctor bought the script to Grizzly 2 for $150,000 and wanted to make a sequel. Had Joseph Ford Proctor ever made a movie before? Not really. But in 1982 he had a meeting with this woman Susanne Nagy, who was a representative for the Hungarian film industry. Her job was trying to get Western filmmakers to shoot their movies in Hungary. She met with Joseph Ford Proctor and didn't realize that he wasn't a big-time movie producer, so she agreed to help him shoot this movie Grizzly 2 in Hungary. She went back and scouted locations. Now at this time, Hungary was still part of the Eastern Bloc. They were still under control of the Soviets. But the control was pretty relaxed, so they were going to shoot the movie on a Soviet military base, and Suzanne convinced the Russians to let them host this giant rock festival in a park. The lineup made no sense as a music festival. It was headlined by Nazareth. One of the other groups was this English new wave band called Toto Soello, and one of the bands was a group of actors and dancers that were put together just for the movie. Surprisingly, the concert part of filming was actually the smoothest part. The other part that was pretty good was the cast. There were actually some good actors in this movie. Jonathan Rhys-Davies, who was fresh off appearing in Raiders of the Lost Ark, and then Oscar winner Louise Fletcher. Nurse Ratched herself was also in this movie. She explained it later saying she was 50 and there weren't a lot of roles for 50-year-old actresses in Hollywood. And then there was a trio of unknown actors who were hired basically because they were Nepo babies. Producers thought maybe their names could help at the box office. All of them were really inexperienced. This was the first movie ever for George Clooney and Charlie Sheen. They didn't really have big parts. They just had one scene together and then they get eaten by a grizzly bear. But the grizzly bear, that's where this shoot turns into kind of a disaster. They built 3 mechanical bears to be the titular grizzly, but they never really worked. They couldn't move. And then at one point, the grizzly bears were seized by the government due to unpaid debts, and they were locked in this warehouse and they burned up. Oh, and the unpaid debts part, that's because the producer of this movie, Joseph Ford Proctor, he disappeared one day into shooting the movie, and he took all the money with him. Miraculously, Suzanne was able to get enough money to keep the shoot afloat. There was an American surgeon that came in and acted as an investor, but they didn't really have enough money to finish the movie. So Grizzly 2 sat unfinished for years. Everybody went their separate ways. Even when Charlie Sheen, George Clooney, and Laura Dern became big stars, Suzanne Nagy couldn't get anybody to help finish the movie. By 1990, she'd given up on it. Joseph Ford Proctor popped up again here and there, and then in 2012, he actually went to prison for tax evasion. And later that decade, Suzanne Nagy got the idea that she should finally finish Grizzly 2. They reshot some scenes, a lot of drone footage. They added it to the movie in a way that made absolutely no sense. They moved those 3 unknown actors who are now stars to top billing in the movie, even though they only had one scene. They also moved that scene up to the very beginning. In the resulting movie, Grizzly 2, it was actually released, first at a festival in 2020, and then to video on demand in 2021. Suzanne Nagy said, "It's not great, but it's watchable." And if you like really bad movies with crazy production stories, I agree.
It's very bad. You got the devil bear.
That's it for today. Come back tomorrow for a brand new music story.